Good morning, beautiful students. You're welcome to your basic science class. Today we are going to be treating the topic diseases. This time around, not in conjunction with nutrition. No. We are going to be treating diseases as a separate topic. Now, our subtopic is going to be dealing on communicable diseases, or communicable and non-communicable diseases, but as a time factor, we are going to narrow it down to only communicable diseases for today's class. In our subsequent class, we are going to be dealing with the non-communicable diseases. And so, let's look at our specific objectives. At the end of this lesson, I should be able to define diseases, state the main types of diseases, describe these types of diseases. Now, let me repeat it. Define diseases, state the main types of diseases, describe these types of diseases. Now, as you are well aware of, that it is because of this topic as well that you are where you are receiving the lecture you are receiving right now. So I want you to take it very seriously. Get your pen and paper down so that you can jot down some of these issues that we are going to be discussing. Now, the definition of disease can be in this form. Diseases can be defined as the abnormal conditions or malfunctioning of the tissues and organs of the body of a living organism. What does that mean? It means that when an abnormal condition occurs in a living thing, it can be as a result of a disease, an infection, or a dysfunctioning of a particular organ or system of the body is as a result of what? The presence of disease. So, as you can see on your screen, that disease can be defined as the abnormal condition. So, whenever anything that is not in the natural condition as it's supposed to be on a healthy body, that thing results to what is known as a disease. Now, another way you can put it in your own, I know you may have your own way of defining disease, is that disease is a malfunctioning of the organs of the body of a living organism or the tissues, as the case may be. Whichever way it is, it results to abnormal condition. Now, diseases can be caused as a result of the activities or the influence of pathogens as well as non-pathogenic agents. Now, what can bring about a disease in the first place? Even as people are in their various homes because of the lockdown of COVID-19 pandemic, it is as a result of the activities of a particular group of organisms which you need to know about. And they are called pathogens. Pathogens, of which the virus is just but a part of the pathogens. We are still going to be narrating these things in details. As you can see on your screen, it's not only pathogens that can cause diseases, also non-pathogenic agents. Let's take a look at some of the meaning of these issues. What are pathogens? These are disease-causing organisms. Any organism that can cause a disease is called a pathogen. Any living thing that can cause disease is called a pathogen. Example, parasitic microorganisms. And what are those parasitic microorganisms? You have bacteria, you have virus, you have protozoa, you have fungi, and so many other microbes. Now, remember, I said the parasitic ones, those ones that feed on other organisms or rely on other organisms for their livelihood, they are the ones called parasitic microorganisms. They are the ones that are pathogenic. They can cause diseases. Remember their name, pathogens. Now, the non-pathogenic agents that can cause diseases are those non-living things that possess the ability to cause diseases. Examples: harmful radiations, like when you have nuclear reactions in radioactive elements like uranium, the ones they use in generating nuclear energy, those ones emit some harmful radiations that can cause diseases in both human, animal, and plants. Now, you also have carcinogenous substances that can cause cancer. Even the other one I mentioned, harmful radiations, they can also cause cancer. Also, among other substances like drugs, some harmful drugs and the rest of them, they can also cause diseases. So they are known as carcinogenous substances, those ones that can cause cancer, which is also a disease. Harmful drugs, there are drugs that can harm the human body, that can put the human body to a lot of diseases. One of them is alcohol. And when alcohol is in its intoxicated form, it destroys the human organs, especially the kidney, the liver. Now, you also have pollutants. What are pollutants? Those substances that destroy the conditions of our environment, that degrade our environment, that makes it of non-habitable conditions. Example of these pollutants, you have mercury, you have lead, you have cyanide, you have this one that fishermen use, gamelin 20, and so many other ones that are very, very disease-causing in nature to the human body and to those of animals. Now, these things are the things that can cause diseases. Let's go on. Now, what are the different types of diseases? We have two main types of diseases. Number one, we have communicable diseases. And then number two, we have non-communicable diseases. Sorry for that. What should be there is non-communicable diseases. Now, let's start with communicable diseases. Now, what are communicable diseases? These are diseases that can be transferred from one individual to another. They are infectious diseases. That is, it can be transmitted, or they can be transmitted from an infected person to another through some medium of contact. Now, in this case, there must be a medium of contact between an infected person and somebody who is not infected for that person to now be infected. In such a situation, in such a disease condition, you call that particular disease communicable disease. In other words, it can be communicated from one person to another. There are diseases like that. There are so many of them. And there are ones that even if by body contact or saliva or any other means, even through the air, you can never contact those ones. Those ones are called non-communicable diseases. Now, let's go on with what is on our screen. It says, these can be transmitted from an infected person to another through some medium of contact, either through air for airborne diseases or water that human beings drink, food that people eat, and even animals. They can also contract diseases from the food they eat, or surfaces of objects like table, like handrails, even handshake with an infected person. Handshake or hugging, like currently in this COVID-19 pandemic that is ravaging the whole world. You know, people are no longer shaking each other because it is communicable. People are for you to shake somebody, you use your elbow and demonstrate and shake, practice your shaking of hands. You no longer open up your mouth and talk to somebody in the open like that. You must put on your mask because it is a communicable disease. Now, let's go on and see some examples of these communicable diseases. Number one on our screen is cholera. Cholera is a communicable disease. Typhoid fever, tuberculosis, ringworm, measles, the COVID-19 we are talking about, Ebola disease, HIV and AIDS, malaria, and so many other diseases that can be transmitted from one individual to the other. They are all communicable diseases. Now, let's take an example from these communicable diseases with measles. What is measles? How is it gotten, or how is it transmitted from one person, from an infected person, to somebody who is not infected? This is a disease caused by a virus which inhabits the respiratory passages. The respiratory passages are made up of your respiratory system, starting with the nasal passage of your nose down to your windpipe inside your throat. Now, it is a disease caused by virus which inhabits the respiratory passages like the nose and windpipes. Here it multiplies into greater numbers and spread further into the body. It can be transmitted by an infected person to a healthy person through respiratory droplets. It has almost similar way of transmission like the COVID-19. Look at some of those respiratory droplets through coughs. When somebody who is infected with measles coughs out, the droplets that come out from the mouth can be transmitted to a healthy person, and the person becomes unhealthy and becomes infected with measles. Also, when somebody sneezes, somebody that is infected with measles virus, when that person sneezes around you, God forbid, but in such a situation, when the person sneezes, he can transmit the virus that causes measles. The next one is through saliva. Maybe sharing cup with the person or sharing plate with the same person, the person can transfer or transmit the virus of measles, because it comes from the respiratory, which includes that of the mouth, because mouth is connected also to the nasal passage and the windpipe. So these are some of the means through which this virus can be transmitted. Now, what are the symptoms of measles? Number one is fever. There is fever that backs it up. The person will be developing a lot of high temperature, which will climb up gradually, and it can be fatal if not treated on time. The person's temperature can run up to 40 or 41 degrees centigrade. And you know this is a critical stage when it comes to temperature rise. It can even lead to death if not treated. Now, the next symptom is dry cough. The next one, the person will be having persistent dry cough. And you find out also that there will be also skin rash all over the body. As we are going to be seeing on our next screen, the appearance of such symptoms. You can see skin rash. You can also observe runny nose. The person will be having runny nose, and also there is another symptom called conjunctivitis. The conjunctivitis is the swelling of the eyes. It will swell up, the eyelids will swell up, and you can see the person's eye to be swollen and be bringing out some fluids. So that is conjunctivitis. Then the next one is that the person can have sore throat. The person will develop sore throat. So if somebody is having all these symptoms mentioned, then it is pointing to measles infection and should be treated immediately. Now let's look at some of the symptoms. As you can see on your screen, you can see a child that is suffering from this measles, having a lot of rashes on the skin, which are quite irritating in nature. The person will be scratching his skin from time to time. The next one, you can see that this, the rashes have spread all over the skin and all over the body, causing a kind of discomfort for the patient, with high fever backing it up, sore throat, runny nose, and all those symptoms that were earlier mentioned. Now, let's take another communicable disease, which is the ringworm disease or ringworm infection. This is a disease caused by a fungus. It affects the skin and the scalp of the head. It affects the skin. This one is on the outer part of the body. All right? And it affects mostly the skin and the scalp of the head. Now, what are the symptoms? Like we said, it is caused by a fungus. A fungus is a living organism as well. Now, what are the symptoms? Number one, scaly skin. The skin becomes scaly in appearance. If it is on the head, it can become scaly scalp. Then it can darken the skin, or it can turn the skin to reddish coloration, as the case may be, depending on the complexion of the individual. Now, you can have bald patches on the head when it occurs on the scalp of the head, and the skin will be so itchy. If it is on the scalp will be so itchy for the person. He will be scratching it from time to time. Now, these are some of the symptoms of ringworm infestation. Now, let's take a look at some of the pictures of these symptoms. You can see how this individual is suffering from this ringworm occurred on the arm, and this is another part of it. If it is not treated, it can spread all over the skin if not treated. But of course, it is treatable and easy to be treated. But I will leave that one for your assignment to do. Let's take a look again. In the case of the symptoms, you can see how it forms in a ring-like form in this individual, and that is why it is called ringworm infestation. Also, on the cheek of this individual, it also formed a pattern. And like we said, all those symptoms will be manifesting in the patients. My dear students, because of time, we are going to halt it a little bit here. Take your assignment, which states that you must mention 4 ways each of treating and preventing measles and ringworm diseases. They are all communicable. State 4 ways. Just state 4 ways of treating and preventing measles and ringworm diseases. Thank you so much. Until we see you next time in our next class, God bless you.